because we got all of you.
We can keep building this momentum. We voted for change 4 years ago. We brought our young people back from Iraq. Equal pay for equal work. And when we left Iraq, Obamacare, as they call it, health care for all, great achievement. And we have reworked the process for student aid so millions more can get a higher education. President Obama has done his part. On tomorrow, when we cast our vote, we will do our part to keep moving America forward.
Tough decisions that at the time you do it are not very popular, but you know in your heart they're right for the constituency you lead. That's why Barack Obama should be re-elected President of the United States. Think back to 2009. When Barack Obama did the financial bailout of Wall Street, people didn't like it. But he knew in his heart he had to do it to save the financial structure of this country and the world. And it worked. Now everybody talks about the auto bailout. It's so popular now. But do you remember, at the time Barack Obama sent that money, the loan money to the automobile companies, only 10% of Americans thought it was a good idea. They didn't think it was a good idea in Michigan or Ohio. But he did it, and it worked. So Barack Obama is no wuss. He's a good leader, a strong leader, and he can lead us into the future.
First, let me say thank you for this vast crowd. It appears that I am not the only person who's even more enthusiastic about electing President Obama today than I was 4 years ago. I'm for Barack Obama because he is the best candidate to restore the middle class, to create jobs, to lift incomes, to give poor people an honorable way out of poverty again. For the first time, plan to create a 21st century economy, and to educate and empower people to take part in it, not just college students, but middle-aged, non-college educated people who feel left out and left behind, who will be able to go to community colleges, be able to go into training programs, be able to have their piece of the American dream back. That's why I'm because of the way he handled Hurricane Sandy. He left the campaign trail, went back to work for 3 days. Didn't care whether the governor of New Jersey was a Republican, the mayor of New York was an independent. I'm for President Obama because he's been a good commander-in-chief. He ended the war in Iraq. He's bringing the troops home from Afghanistan. He fought terrorism vigorously, and he pursued diplomacy vigorously. He knows we need a world with more partners and fewer enemies, and he's got a really good Secretary of State. I'm for Barack Obama because he earned the endorsement of a self-described modern Republican, one of the greatest soldiers since the end of World War II, General Colin Powell. General Powell said, I'm endorsing him because he's done a good job, because he's modernized the military, because he's dealing with our security challenges, he's made tough decisions, and he's not eager to go to war. And because his opponent, Governor Romney, has the same neocon advisors that took us to war in Iraq on bad intelligence. Governor John Sununu, who was the first least in part, because he wants to have an African-American president. Those guys stick together. He made it look like a buddy movie. Tomorrow, without regard to your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, your age, your ability or disability, said the presidency was about. People made fun of him, but I agree with him. He said, the president is the decider-in-chief. Remember he said that? I'm for him because he decided to sign the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Because he decided that young people who were brought here without documentation when they were little kids should stay. And because he decided to save the American automobile industry. I want Barack Obama to be the decider-in-chief. There's this little matter of the car industry. First of all, it was going down. Even the German and Japanese manufacturers that have operations in America were for that automobile plant. Because they knew if General Motors couldn't buy parts anymore, the parts manufacturers would go down and they would be in trouble. We're all in this together, it works better than you're on your own. Yeah. Everybody who looked at it realized it wasn't a bailout, it was a restructuring. Labor gave something, management gave something. You kicked in some money, your loans have been repaid, by the way. It saved 1 million jobs. There are now 250,000 people more making cars in the United States. Governor Romney opposed it. And then he went to Ohio and he said, oh my goodness, no Republicans ever been elected president without carrying Ohio. I need to shift my position a little bit. I need to blur it up. I need to convince people that if this T had been crossed this way and that I had been dotted this way and something else had happened, well, poof, I would have gotten the same result. But he tried and tried and tried, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get it done because he was against it. So he came up with a whole new strategy. Never mind that was so yesterday. What about today? The president is working with Jeep to move jobs from Ohio to China. Now, I took this personally because Jeep opened their Toledo factory when I was president. We actually had to do quite a bit of work to make it possible for it to happen. And I knew they just promised to spend $500 million more there. They were just hiring 1,000 more people. They're just producing new lines. And they've expanded in Michigan. All they want to do is reopen their operation in China because Jeeps are too heavy to make here and send there and make any money out of it. They are growing. So when Jeep said, Governor Romney, that's not true, he kept on saying it. Then the president of Chrysler said, but Governor Romney, that's not true. Governor, you're supposed to be a business guy. This is not true. He kept on saying it. Then the president of General Motors said, it's not true. He put an ad up claiming it was so. American middle class workers for 10 years did not get a pay increase is that their employers had to pay for exploding health premiums. And the money that would have gone to their wages went into the health care. So what's happened since this bill that Governor Romney is committed to repeal went into law? Well, first of all, because 80 to 85% of your premium has to go to your health care, you've gotten over $1 billion in refunds. 575,000 Pennsylvania families have gotten refunds. Secondly, 3 million young people 19 to 25 are carrying on their parents' policies. Thirdly, if but only if you re-elect President Obama tomorrow. Next year, 30 million people, many with pre-existing conditions, will be able to get insurance for the first time. Charge women more than men for the same health care. We now have 2 years in a row where inflation is 4% or less for the first time in 51 years. Governor Romney's gone all over America saying how terrible President Obama is for running up the debt. He sort of forgot it quadrupled in the 12 years before I took office. I gave you 4 years of declining deficits and 4 surpluses. We went back to trickle-down economics one more time, and they doubled the debt again. Then President Obama becomes president in the worst crash since the Great Depression. And he couldn't help that. Revenues were lower because people weren't making money. They didn't have any taxes to pay. And costs were higher because of unemployment and because we feed our neighbors when they're in trouble. So, what do you think he could do? But you would think if a guy said this is the worst problem we ever had, the least he'd do is give us a budget, wouldn't he? I'm still waiting. See me about that after the election. He can cut all this stuff I just talked to you about and not even fill the extra hole they just dug with $5 trillion in tax cuts and $2.7 trillion in extra spending and haven't taken a penny off the debt. See me about that after the election. Now I want you to end with a smile. You've all heard Governor Romney say that when he wins, people will be so elated that America will produce 12 million new jobs. It may just be a coincidence, or maybe he just forgot. As the president tells us, you know, we've got this horrible public health epidemic called amnesia. It's a virus being driven by hundreds of millions of dollars in bogus ads, so everybody's vulnerable to it. I guess even he is. But he sort of got to tell us that just a few days before he promised us those 12 million jobs, an independent business forecasters, Moody's Analytics, go look it up on the internet, said in the next 4 years, we're going to get 12 million jobs if we don't mess up what Barack Obama has already done. With a smile on your face and a song in your heart and a spring in your step, because America is coming back. Knowing that we're all in this together is better than you're on your own. Knowing that practical problem solving is better than ideological extremism. And knowing that arithmetic is always going to be better than illusion. I want you to know your hopes and not your fears. I want you to imagine what America can be like 10 years from now, and I want you to go out